All things. Train decide to you passing by right as I start. All right, so I was going to talk today about how we see strangers, um, because perception is everything. It's a way we like organize our thoughts in our brain, and so I think the way we see strangers is part of like our environment, which is like what we see. We're constantly like I don't know, metaphorically going against all the time. Another train. Anyway, I hope it's not one of those broadcasts where I bring up the train every time. But I went by a simple principle a few times lately, and it's been helping me out. It's in a situation of maybe anxiety or just boredom, essentially. Um, Looking at strangers, and it's very easy for me in Chicago right now because I'm surrounded by strangers, right in the middle of downtown. But is looking at strangers. Hold on, I'm going getting right into it. And I just realized I don't see anyone on. So this will be the last time I have to hold the mic too, because I'm going to be getting my boom stand when I go home for Thanksgiving here. So there we go. John Doe. Nice. Okay. So yeah, I for some reason did an intro while no one was watching. So anyway, the point of this broadcast, I'll just say it again, is to look at the way we look at strangers, because it's all based off perception, how we organize our mind. Um, and then it's always like nature, metaphorically, is always what we're combating. It's like the idea of random chance, what you don't have control over. Um, so yeah, I was getting into the idea that I live in Chicago, and there's moments of I don't know boredom, anxiety, whatever you want to call them, and I always think of like what I would be doing. Yeah, I figured that's why I was going. I just went right in because anyone who wants to join, we can just take it in the direction that it is. That's a cool thing about like a live stream is it's just like this is like available to anyone who wants to look at it later. But as of right now, anyone who's you know following live can participate in exactly what I'm saying. It's a really interesting method of communication. Starting it mainly because I follow a few podcasters that are just really good communities of people. And I mean, I'd love to eventually get to a point where like someone else's like face is right next to mine. So it's just like a bunch of like a round table of people all having a conversation while maybe people are also chatting it up. Anyway, till it gets to that point, it's just me chatting with Sean M. But just kind of wanted to outline what this could become in baby steps right now because this is nothing. Anyway, we're going right into a deep matter of looking at strangers and taking the idea that you can look at them as immortal people. And when I say the word immortal, I say like where time doesn't matter with your interaction with them. So like the biggest one I go to regularly, and actually I think I'm gonna actually do something about it now, is I realize I'm making enough money here in Chicago where I could afford maybe $20 to $30 like I have like with a monthly, I don't know, where I spend money going out to eat or video games or something, a game that I might buy. I can devote that towards just a homeless person, just like see what that interaction would provide me. And this is where I'm getting to like a complete like budgeting idea of it, but it's like, what would that do for my soul versus how I'm spending that money right now, um, just for me to enjoy something here in this apartment. Um, and that is where I really think that if more people start thinking like that's just one particular scenario. But if you can do that, when you're doing business with people, when you're hiring someone, when you're, what everyone's doing different jobs. It's like Some people are more in the service industry, some people are more like a managerial role or bureaucratic or politician. That's where, politics comes into play. And I think that's where a lot of these interactions in our country that kind of have people divided is we are in a Western society, and that becomes a point of contention. To get right into it is, I know our president got flack for saying he's a nationalist. Just keep it surface level here. I want to like build up from like the surface level of politics on an ideological level and just work up. So, Sean, you with me on nationalism is something a president should have? He should be a nationalist towards the country he is the president of. Like, if we as a country can't agree on the fact that our president should be a nationalist, not white nationalist. I know that's one thing that gets tied together all the time, but just the word nationalist, it's self-preservation. It's exactly it. And, you have to like tie on these terms that ruin a word that by itself is fine. You should be a nationalist. Not only that, I was born in Venezuela. A good portion of my blood is actually Colombian, like from like my grandparents and their parents from that side of the family are all original Colombians. So if you want to talk heritage bloodline, because I know that matters to some people, it doesn't matter much to me. But the thing is, ideologically, I'm an American. My ethical code was derived from this system. I mean, I also have my family as influence, but even that side of the Latin side, which I know a lot of people because of like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, big city Latin Americans, they assume that they're all liberal Democrats, they're all blue states. I think that's more of a depiction of the cities than it is the demographic, which is because when you look at South American or even Mexican American like cultures, generally very conservative when you actually go there. You have your liberal areas, but just on allowing people to be, when it comes on like a internationalism, globalism destroys culture, nationalism preserves it. That's exactly it. It's exactly it. Nationalism, it's the defense of your own culture, which is self-explanatory. It's self-preservation. It's you making sure your system, like our currency and everything, which is it's a fiat currency, and that's something I really am not going to get into because that could be a whole topic, the idea of the Federal Reserve, and that's something that I really think should be discussed, but I know that Sean and I pretty much agree on that. So on the fact that the Federal Reserve doesn't make any sense, but everyone just kind of agrees on it because it's not worth fighting about. And is a good quick summary of why it's not worth it to go down that rabbit hole, but it is worth going down. By the way, it's annoying that makes us all slaves. Yeah, it does. It does, but it and here's the argument for from the capitalist side. I guess let's just go into it for a little bit. Is the fact that we're all like equal slaves if everyone's playing ball, and that's where, to me, I think it really goes into ideological choices in a system that ultimately doesn't really matter, which goes back to the whole immortal thing. So I'm just going to tie it back into that. But we are playing this meta game that we've created as part of our way of spending our time while we sit in these bodies, to tie in the spiritual side of things, because we make these things seem so real because we're doing them as a matter of self-preservation as well. The whole point of me doing this podcast is really just, I have work tomorrow and I've been stewing on all this stuff, and it's like you don't always get a chance to just tell people about how you feel about the world. I think that's what kind of art is. I know this is another thing we've talked about, Sean, is I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's like music, art. I mean, I saw your painting today. It's just, to me, like anytime someone's doing something that is like not maybe a work of writing or like math or something like that. When it's something more subjective, that's like a moment of vulnerability between people, and that's when you're like showing your like soul to somebody. You're like, this is what I did. You can say it's bad, or you can say it's good, and I really can't argue the point that it is or isn't either. And so I think like those are the moments where people are like, how are you going to treat me in a moment where I share myself with you? And the thing is, I think a lot of that isn't even decided by objective reasoning by itself. I think like I could, and this is where I think there's a huge problem with the society as a whole, is we're moving to this digital society where a lot of interactions are black and white. It's sent over a message, an email. A lot of my business is done over the phone. I never even see the people I'm doing business with anymore in a sales role. I just realized I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at myself, which is odd. But yeah, sorry, getting off track. Shoot, where was I? I don't know. I saw the subscriber thing. Sean, yeah, Sean, where are we at as far as conversation? Because I think I'm kind of running away with it, and I need to kind of slow it down, anchor down the ideas we're talking about here. Make sure, there's a bit of a transcript. Actually, I can type stuff too, but I figure I'll just talk because I don't know. I feel like the comment section is going to be very important because people can read quickly. Obviously, it's just you right now, but it becomes like a transcript for what was said. Like it's your side of things. Honestly, it might be like more powerful now because it's just like a list of like your interactions with me that you can go through quicker than watching this 11 minutes. So I think just having that alone is huge. And someone followed the last one I did on Sunday night, and he listened to the whole thing and just kind of said, yeah, thanks for doing this. And I told him I'd be doing another one. But so I think it was the Tiger was his name. I hope he gets a chance to watch this in retrospect or join like another show. But it's a matter of like getting a conversation going so that we can eventually maybe have other people with cameras. It not just be me monologuing with chat, because ultimately like my model for this is where like I start a community of people who want to go start their own shows. Like I'm looking to like add people to be my peers. This isn't I think a lot of people think of like if you want to like brand this as entertainment, when in reality it's more just me unloading my ideas. It's like this is an opportunity for like people to just gather. This is like a campfire moment. It's not like I own it. I'm just the host of like this idea, and just start like having people do that more regularly. Because I'm really realizing that these like YouTube people, but when they're not just parroting points, when it's like an actual live broadcast where they're interacting with their people who are just listening while it's live, it's a really interesting interaction, especially when I tip my hat to Owen Benjamin. He's the guy who really got me motivated to try this. He's really good with his fans. Check him out, plug him, so that I don't really need to explain why. I could call you on the phone and we could put me on speaker. That's actually a really good idea. So I'll just call you, and then, I mean, we're just kind of throwing this together right now. Honestly, it's like if this ends up becoming exactly what I'm talking about, this will be a good laugh. So.
Hello.
What's up? Can you hear?
How you doing, sir?
Good. Can you hear yourself?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, but is it coming through your phone?
See, that's the thing. I can't talk to you on the phone while watching the live stream.
Ah, I see. That's a problem.
If I had my things together, my Wi-Fi would be off, and we could do a test on the computer.
Well, I think
that would work.
You might not be able to hear yourself, but regardless, my mic might be picking up what you're saying.
Okay.
So you're hearing me, and the podcast is picking up what I'm saying. So the loop is closed. You're being heard, and you can hear me. So.
All right, great, man. Well,
I mean, I think theoretically, I haven't, I can't listen to my own broadcast right now, but I think this should be audio-wise fine.
Yeah.
So
I'm interested to see afterwards. Go back and watch it and see
yeah.
how it turns out. But yeah. So you were talking about basically just a different way of thinking about how you interact with other humans.
Yes.
And like the immortal human, you know,
Mhm.
as if, you know, like you were talking to me before we started the live stream. You were saying how like you meet people and you just kind of write them off, you know.
Yeah.
They're just like temporary.
That it has no, to me, the way I phrase it is they have no bearing on what I see as myself. Like
Yeah.
what the universe is capable of bestowing to me, I'm not worthy of like anything they could be doing in their life.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things like a lie we tell
It's a
ourselves.
complete lie.
Because anyone with any real understanding of it knows that we're literally just one thing.
Yes.
We're split into all these different characters and personalities and bodies, but humans.
But we're constantly forgetting it too.
It's just one thing.
Yeah. And I think the wave is to forget that. The majority at the moment, I think, is people who forget that. Well, and here's the thing: is this is where I want your perspective, because I'm in Chicago, and when I look at the way I look at the world, I realize that it's not the same as a majority of the people I interact with. I think that's a fair general statement to make. Yeah. So just going off that, I think a lot of people look at the world as an oppressive place, that the world is literally oppressing them. And I think that's the first point. If you can't get over that, I'm sorry, any conversation we have about any other the points we're about to make aren't going to resonate.
Yeah.
You're stuck. That is bedrock. That is bedrock. I've been there.
A victim mentality.
And I'm not pointing a finger either when I say that.
No, me neither.
No. Because you have to have been there to understand what someone's going through.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, is just to be able to like share that with someone, and that's what it came down to tie back into the art. You know, being able to be vulnerable with a person, and to just share, you know, something where something you could tie into a negative circumstance where that person. Not even if they don't like the art, but if they make it a point to say they don't like the art so that other people end up not liking your art. That's, you know, it's not criminal. I wouldn't be, you know, suing you because of it, but I'd be like, wow, it's completely unnecessary.
A negative force in the world.
It's completely unnecessary too.
Yeah. I really liked what you said about how it's like, you know, how do you treat me in the moment that I show myself to you?
Right.
I thought that was a very interesting statement.
And people are constantly going through those. That's the other thing. We never know what fear someone's dealing with in a given moment. That moment could mean a lot more to them any given second than anyone realizes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like last night when I was doing that painting at the art show in Willoughby, we were doing. We all had individual panels and we all had different themes. Mine was laughing faces. You saw the picture.
Yes, I saw. Yeah.
And I got a ton of very positive remarks from a bunch of different people I'd never met, and it was very good experience. But then I had one friend who I didn't know was there at the venue, and I just heard from behind, "That's the shittiest painting I ever saw," or something like that. And I was like,
you just know that's statistically going to happen, though. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Someone is always going to go there.
The thing was, just for the shock value. The humor of it.
Yep.
But and he definitely didn't mean that. He's one of my good friends. I'm sure.
Exactly.
What he was yelling was, "That's great. Hey, I'm here." You know. But I just wanted to say something paradoxical to you know. Shock you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times you bring up a great point. There is the fact that sometimes friends don't. You need to understand that exactly what they're saying is the 180 of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I speak from experience also.
Yeah.
I've said some nasty things to people because I was like asking for help, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because, like, even though I knew that was what
Mm-hmm.
it was more just to add on to the surprise of him being there. He
Right.
didn't mean it, and I'm supposed to just know that already. But like I was kind of want to go ask him, like, you didn't think it was shitty though. You didn't really mean that, right? Like, part of me wanted to do that, but I was like, no. It's just that those insecurities and just those self-doubting thoughts,
And it can
anyone, especially
cannibalize you.
when you make art and stuff like that. Like I was anxious about the event in general because I'm more of a folk artist, and I don't have a ton of like hard skill, and you walk in the room and there's a dozen easels lined up and all these different artists painting, and a lot of them are really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I got 4 hours to do this. Like, better pull this one together. Like, usually, I might take like a couple weeks on painting. So,
well, that's why I think painting itself is so special, as opposed to maybe photography. And I do respect photography. I'm a huge, actually, I'm big into movies and cinematography. Go down that road. But I think painting,
I love it. But the
painting shows a process.
It's got so watered down now that everyone has a camera in their pocket.
Yeah, but not going down that road to keep it with your painting is, I think, what people appreciate so much about seeing a painting in person is just you can see the process that went into it. You can see even like I've seen people do really quick paintings, but it's just like you can see the way they organize their brain in order to be able to create those images. That's the way I look at it, because I've seen paintings get made, and you have to start with something that is not what's initially there.
Yeah.
You have to start from.
It's daunting in that moment.
Visual art in that sense is incredible. That's why I've never tried it, never been good at it, because you literally make something out of nothing.
Well, here's the thing: is like I think you could be good at anything.
I think so too. I do believe that.
If you just decide it, it's like it's a total mental process.
I think that I would make a good painter, but it's precisely why I don't want to try painting, because I think it could and would consume me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can see it.
I've seen what happened to Jim Carrey. I'm like, I could see that happening to me. I could totally do that.
It's like in a third floor, like attic room, locked away at the top of the stairs.
Dude,
just painting.
Taking it to another level here is Kanye. Like, whenever I see him doing stuff, I'm just like, I feel it. That makes sense. Yeah. A lot of the tweets he does, like, because I can picture the context he's in. You look at a couple tweets and you see what he's reading. You see the source, the context of why he's doing this action. And that's the problem a lot of these articles people have of him in particular, or other scenarios, is they take it completely out of context. They just show the action, but not anything that led up to it.
Yeah, and that's our entire society right now. It's endless half truths.
The court of public appeal, as they say.
Yeah, and it's
more important than the actual legal precedent for most cases too now.
Yeah,
that's the real problem.
We're not at the point where they're putting people in a gladiator dome and having death sport, but like we basically
metaphorically sometimes that happens. On Twitter.
What I was getting at is through social media and the court of public opinion, we trash people and then we like laugh about it, look at it, and then we'll forget about it, and then go back and look at it and laugh about it, and that's basically the same thing. Like while those individuals, their lives like crumble and they lose their jobs and their house and everything falls apart. Usually end up like insanity. Yeah. Like we just sit here and laugh. Just set another sacrifice on the altar of whatever ignorance we're pushing today.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the role of comedy. I think the role of comedy is like to teach us like finality in a scenario.
And maybe to teach us humanity.
Yeah, well, that's really what it comes down to.
Because if we're just laughing at make-believe pain, we're not laughing at the real pain that we like for some reason subconsciously lust for.
Yeah, I think what can happen is I really think that I think that's kind of what you're saying, that sadness and comedy humor have a deep connection.
Well, like through comedy, we can laugh at pain.
Yes. Okay.
And it's a much healthier way than actually laughing at pain, like how a lot of people are guilty of, even myself in modern times, with the personality assassinations you see going on in social media.
It's not even admissible in court. Well, no, it's character evidence, which isn't part of creating a case against someone. I'll put it that way. And that's, and the thing is, I'm thinking this way because I'm surrounded by a bunch of lawyers. They always make all these like lawyer jokes all the time. Like it's the funniest thing in the office. They're always like allegedly, and it's just for like random stuff like forgetting to like restock the paper towels. Like you didn't do that. It's like I allegedly didn't do that. It's not like all the time, but it's like just being in that like state of mind makes me thinking that everyone's playing like a legal game with each other.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's a weird office to be in sometimes.
As a society, the way we are illegally, you're kind of trained to be like prepped for any person you interact with. If that goes bad enough, well, they might be suing me. That's kind of a subconscious thing that we're.
And I think there's a lot of good people who don't even calculate that way.
Yeah.
There's some people that's not even on their brainwave. I know because a majority of my life I wasn't.
Yeah.
I've only learned to think that way without ever thinking that's the way I would do things. Just like knowing that other people are capable of going there, and I would only go there if I really got an egregious offense towards me.
Yeah, and even then, I don't know.
It's a toss-up because you never know.
I don't want to speak ahead of something bad, but
that's a gnarly premonition.
Like I've had a lot of I felt like I've had a lot of bad luck at times, and there were a lot of times I wish somebody would have just been like, look, he's a good person,
Right. Well, ultimately,
let's let it slide. But
yeah, I think I was talking to someone else about this. I think a lot of this stems from a really simple concept. Is just like asking people how they're doing, just knowing the people you interact with regularly-ish, and just every once in a while asking how they're doing.
But here's the thing: is we say that it's become part of our language. How you doing?
Or yeah.
But we don't mean it. What you're saying is.
I'm not talking person to person. In this sense, I actually mean online. Normally, like texting, or just calling somebody.
Yeah.
Like
just
I call
that little gesture can, be that positive little bit of energy that someone might need in that day.
Well, I'll tell you, calling my grandparents has been really crazy.
We have
lately.
it at our fingertips, and it's like we don't take full advantage of it, but we use it for the negative. Social media and ridicule, rumor.
And it's amazing. We were talking about kind of initially in the broadcast about the idea of like immortality and treating people like immortal souls.
Yeah.
A way that your action will affect them. So just knowing that and to me, that kind of foundation to be talking from gets you to the point. It's like, well, now you have the responsibility to use that power by being in a moment, with the ability to change things, because you're not an oppressive system. You know what I mean? You're not in an oppressive world. Because you have the freedom to make your own choice and change things in a positive way, now it's your job to do that.
It is. I mean, I don't know about you. Actually, I do. But for me, I want to think I'm a good person. I want to go to bed at night knowing I tried to do as much good as I could that was within my life, within my means.
Big time.
I've got to, I got to feel that way. And
I think everyone does. I really that's the way I see the world, at least. I'll say that's the world I see, at least. Because you can't speak for other people. I think you were saying that's kind of what you were saying while I was talking.
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing. Yeah. Is that it's just the way you see the world, and that's kind of the only thing you can control. Everything else is just premonition. You trying to predict what happened already, and it doesn't even matter at that point.
Well, very recently, I kind of came to the personal conclusion. If I wanted to be at peace, if I wanted to be able to live my life, I can't save the world. It's not my responsibility. I'll do what I can to achieve that end, but
Yep.
I'm only responsible for myself and my choices, my words, my interactions. I can't control, I can't affect everybody, and the best way that I actually can is through my own action.
Right. And to me, like, I always go on like a reminder kind of system in my own head. Is like, what am I constantly reminding myself? And part of it is I do leave reminders for myself on social media in like the way the news I follow and things like that. I think that's part of an information diet that people don't discuss. Is where are you getting your ideas in your head from on a daily basis?
Yeah, and why?
And are you thinking about why you're still following them? Why, you know what I mean?
Why wouldn't we in a completely constructed world?
Right.
Right.
Well, and prove to yourself that you have the ability to change things. Well, I'm sorry?
Why would we not wonder what the true source of all this information is? Why would we accept it at face value?
Well, and this is where I think you and I actually disagree, and this is the moment I've been waiting to talk to you about.
Oh, right.
Because I kind of disagree. In a way, I'm going to structure my brain on how I'm going to see the world with a lot of the things you've said about a few conspiracies. Now, while I agree objectively with a lot of what you say, I think the causation to it is probably where I see it as less malicious than you do. I think that's the common ground.
Oh, yeah, and that's
and then to me, everything in between, I'm willing to talk about because I don't know where I stand, but I prefer glass half full.
Yeah,
because I think you've looked into it a lot more than I have.
I'd like to, but the glass isn't half full. The glass is empty, and they just lie about the glass all day. I mean, that's
right.
I hate that it's that way, but that is the way it is. I mean, it's worse than any of us could imagine.
Well, and the thing is, I can go to the smoking gun. The first point I would talk to me about if I was defending things for your side, is pedophilia.
Yeah.
That word right there.
Yeah.
People can't even say it. Because actually, I was trying to get you on Owen Benjamin, and he was the video I was listening to before I did this.
No, I watched one of them you sent me.
Okay, you watched the one, but I watch him daily, normally.
Yeah, he's dope. I like him.
But today he was talking about this, because he was talking about the internet being scared. Well, the word pedophile.
Yes.
He said he went into a hardware store or CVS or something. And he's CVS because that's where they'd have a nail file.
Okay.
And so he went. He's a comedian. He makes money from doing gigs, so he has a lot of free time. So he just went to a CVS to test how they interact with him when he said this. He goes, "Where do you keep your pedophiles?" And the lady's like, oh, "You can't say that." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And he like broke it down. He's like, "Pedo means foot, and file." He's like, "Technically, I can say that because of the way I'm meaning the word."
Right.
But he made her say the word pedophile and she would not say it. And he understands that she's been, conditioned not to do that. Most people are.
Well, the thing is it's so ugly.
It's so very horrific. Ugly. Just to say the word is tough.
It's the crime itself is worse than murder.
Big time. And the punishment, I would agree, is murder.
And then how do you know? Yeah, well,
not murder. Sorry, I was equivocating. It's capital punishment.
My personal beliefs on the matter is that people who commit that crime are unfit to be in our society, truly unfit. Someone could murder somebody and they could still be fit to live in society based on the circumstances surrounding the act.
Yes.
Like there's definitely gray areas in that, but when it comes to that crime, there's no excuse, and they.
I'm talking at its worst.
My God, exactly.
At its worst, it's definitely capital.
If you look into it at all, at its worst, it's the most horrific thing, and absolutely, I believe that a bullet to the head would not be wrong, especially if it was a
little grisly. I'd try to find something a little more humane, but
my opinion on it is we have to be better than this evil And if we're not, we maybe don't deserve to not suffer under it.
Here's another point I wanted to go into, but I just want to, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say life in prison.
Life in prison.
I believe that they should just be put in prison. There's no appeals. There's no court. Doesn't cost us much. We give you basic food, and you spend 23 hours a day locked in a brick cell. And
I'm a big proponent for teaching the code,
because we don't need the evil of killing them on our souls. You know, they're evil. They brought enough evil in the world. We don't need to make any more evil. Just get them, find them, you know, prove that they did what they've done, and then put them in that cell for the rest of the time.
I say make them work for Amazon. I say make them work for Amazon. How about that?
Yeah.
You know, Amazon wants slaves. They wanted to make slaves out of little kids for a moment. So now you get to be a slave.
You know where I'm living right now. I live in Euclid. Amazon is building some massive center. Literally, I mean, a quarter mile from my house.
Amazon is getting to Egyptian levels of strength.
They're Bezos is an interesting.
When you look at ability to affect the planet, like if he wanted to, he could create a pyramid of Giza. If he wanted to. If he wanted to just invest his money right now, if God told him to build a pyramid, he could do it. He could build a few.
And he'd still live good.
That's what I'm saying. That man is at Egyptian level of power.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's just one of many. I mean,
right. There's a lot of men who are literally walking gods.
Absolutely. I mean, in every sense. I mean,
I have this tattoo, Altered Carbon. I don't know if you've seen the show. I think I mentioned it to you.
Yeah, I think you're telling me about it.
I'm just gonna plug it real quick. Is the idea of the show is there's a future where the bourgeoisie completely transcends, literally through financial and technological gain. They literally physically have transcended the poor because they've been able to, with stem cells, cloning technology, and the ability to transfer consciousness to new bodies. That's the whole premise of the show.
Yeah.
Is you can just keep yourself alive through clones indefinitely and never age.
Which I would not be surprised if that was an.
That's why I love the show. The show is so sick. But the premise, and it's well written as far as the way it interacts with the world and everything. But I think that's kind of what that is like a good metaphor for. Is these people are literally in a breakaway civilization because that's the direction it could go. That's what I think the idea of a good metaphor, a good story that we like to learn from. It's why people love Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and The Office, obviously, for a whole nother reason. It's all about telling things in threes. Two things that are too familiar and then one thing that's funny. That's the way people learn things.
That's I've never heard of that.
Well, it works. You heard it here first, I guess. You know.
But hey, I gotta get back to.
I was gonna say
to one subject.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me what
like
the most important subject, like the most important thing that Americans, and not just Americans, but every person on the planet, every human should focus on, is the fact that there's a bunch of Luciferian pedophiles that run all the world's major governments and are colluding together to feed off of us like the most violent tick or leech you could ever imagine. They tear our children from our homes and ritualistically abuse and murder them. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And and people don't want to talk about it.
And the thing is,
just the word pedophile is it's too much. And I understand. I can barely hear one of these crimes discussed without clenching my fist and getting angry when I know that's not the solution. The solution is a calm, cool head. You know, we have to accept and understand that this is what it is. It's the way it is. Now we need to change it.
I think that being aware of that also is causing a lot of anxiety to a lot of people. I think that's what anxiety is for a lot of people. Is they know the way things should be. I think people know the way that things should be. And anxiety is it
and
manifesting.
We know in our core that it's not the way it should be.
I think it's your body telling your brain that what your brain is your body going on strike, essentially. Your body is like, what you're thinking is not what we're going to keep doing. Because you keep building up for this fight. That's what a panic attack, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You keep building up for this fight that's not going to happen. And that's where I have a problem. And this is where I really want to hash stuff out with you, is like to me, the idea of bringing up Luciferian and a lot of this, to me, it's more symbolic, because I think ideologically I agree with you. But to me, this is where the nuance comes into play, is how you let that affect the rest of your imagery and symbology in your life. Because Luciferian for some people can mean Hitler, for some it can mean Mao, for some, and then people can think of Hitler and Mao in two different ways. And that, those where thought chains go. So when you say the word Luciferian, to me, that's a very vague term, and you're putting it in a negative light.
Well, it is.
I agree that it is, too.
I understand when someone says, I'm a Satanist, right? Yeah, I've met Satanists before.
Right.
Good people. Very, very logic-based, very rational, reject tradition, and just want proof. They want proof. For the most part, they're very good people. But those are the bottom rung. Those are the ones that plebs like us will walk in, into.
And we'll ask for it too.
And they, they make a lot of sense. And I don't think at their core they're evil. They're just really atheists who think about try to look at the world through science and logic, and
there's a part of me that still considers atheism, because to me it's a very interesting line that I believe enough in something, and then my thing with saying atheist versus theist is it doesn't matter, because I think there's an answer to the question if you're an atheist or a theist that is neither of those answers, but can benefit in any way for both camps, if that makes any sense. Because I think being completely theist, you can get lost. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm overspeaking.
No, you're fine. Those people mean well, and they're good people, but at the top of our world, and the top of our world is the financiers of the international banking systems.
Yes.
Those people, there's about 5,000, 6,000 people who are in those positions who oversee the flow of money. And they are Luciferians in the truest sense. And they murder children. And they've done it for thousands of years. I mean, Luciferian may not even be the best word to describe it, but in our circle, it is the best way to understand it. I mean, they have a lot. I mean, this has been going on since ancient Egypt, the ancient Egyptian mystery religions. This is like where Luciferianism, as we call it today, came from. I mean, they share a lot of the rituals and tradition, and so it sucks, but that's the way it is, and it's way too much for most people to accept. They'd rather well, I can't know, so I'll just say it isn't happening, so I don't have to, swallow that pill. But it only makes sense. I mean,
how do you think here's the issue I have with you is when you bring yourself back to that on a cognitive behavioral level, what do you do from that emotional energy? Where do you take that?
It depends. I mean, it's been a process for me personally. When I was younger, I let it fuel self-destructive tendencies because the world was poisoned and all this evil was happening. So, and I was helpless to affect it. And the people I talked to don't ridicule me for bringing it up. So it's like, you get to a point where it's like, well, you just get self-destructive and just live each day like it's your last.
Yes.
But now,
I think there's a lot of people there. That's hell. No. That is what hell is. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. just endless self-indulgence with
Yes.
no true happiness.
And I think the
just,
biggest issue of hell is the fact that it is an illusion that most people don't even realize they're in it.
Exactly.
It's the most ethical people, for the lack of a better word, the ones who realize they're in hell, that are the ones who truly suffer.
Yeah.
The people who are really on the edge, you know.
Yeah, the people who really want to change the world.
You know, the cops that shoot a kid on accident, and I'm not gonna defend them. I'm saying the ones who, I guarantee, I don't keep up with all these cop, you know, the kid cop, you know what I'm saying? I don't keep up with them anymore. But I know there's got to be a scenario where there was a good cop, and he was nervous for his life, for whatever, and he probably did something on accident. And given all these more hate crimey or whatever, the ones we can all agree are bad, he's roped into that. And to me, that's whenever I have like thoughts that can be this broad scoping or whatever, I think it's always good to take things to hyperbolic levels on the positive and negative side.
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to suffer, who shouldn't be, and who's going to be benefiting in a way that maybe they should, it should be questioned why they're benefiting so much.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Personally, I feel as if the media is fueling this divide, and I mean, there's a ton of different reasons why things are the way they are, but basically, most cops don't want to kill anyone. Don't wake up and go, I want to shoot somebody today. There are some for sure.
Oh,
there
yeah.
has to be because of human nature. But for the most part, most cops are just trying to get back home to their family and do their job.
And I think there is even a demographic of cops who are good people.
I've met them.
Hold on.
I'm a terrible driver. I've been pulled over so many times.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying.
I've met many good cops.
I'm talking about the worst case scenario in good cops. I'm saying where the hero becomes the villain kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Where you have the really good cop, really good person, really good everything, but it's because they're turned up to 100 on being a good person, where in one moment, someone scares him,
Yeah.
And there it's a 50-50. He's been batting 1,000 on his life. He's got the chick of his dreams. He's got 4 great, kids and everything. He's like a councilman. You know what I'm saying? He's just doing everything right, batting 1,000.
Yeah.
And then some dude comes behind him, and it seems like he's got a gun, and he's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a 50-50.
Yeah. And it's
all
I don't
over.
know if you've ever been in a situation where you were afraid for your life, but I have.
Oh.
And
what starts a lot of panic attacks I have. How about that?
in that, in that moment, that feeling will make you go places that you would never want to go or never choose to go on your own. It's just about the circumstances.
You're just riding
befall you.
Yeah, you're to me, it's like a cascade of thought that you are forced to go down because you perceive things in a particular way.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people ignore the symbology you saw in an event, in an interaction between people, or something you read. You know what I mean? Yeah, you never know the way people, the thought chains people are going down to access the same information you are.
Yeah. And it's
I mean, I'm breaking it down to the level I think about things, and then kind of seeing where we go from it.
I love it. People are flawed. We.
So it's the foundation of a lot of religions, man.
We're literally just trying to survive. That's our core.
We're nothing but animals.
Really, we're a really cool animal that's connected in a maybe I want to say we're connected to each other in a strange way, but maybe it's only strange because we're humans and that's how it appears from our perspective.
The more I learn about history, the more I believe in God.
Having that connection.
Yeah.
What's that?
The more I read into history, the more I believe in God.
Okay.
Just when I know that the timelines we're able to create between different civilizations on different parts of the planet who never had interaction with each other, humanity is always like, they say idle hands is the devil's work. Do we just assume that everyone who lived before us was possessed by the devil? You know what I'm saying? It's like there were people creating amazing, great things, and they're all doing it simultaneously. Time was a static for them, if you believe in time being static, which is the way we have to associate between different people. Because I've talked to some really hippie people who are just like, well, time's just an illusion, and that's just kind of the bedrock we get to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's like when you think of like what the Inca were up to while the Chinese were having their dynasty,
Yeah.
Like some religion, some cultures, like they had some rituals that were insane, but they were also doing calendaring in a way that no one else on the planet was.
Yeah, that is
ritual sacrifice.
Yeah.
But they were the best astronomers on the fucking planet at the time.
Yeah.
They were literally like making
on a massive scale, but yet they have maps of the solar system.
And the thing is, they made monuments that we still can go to. Like they're not even there. There's no tour guide. Like I walk around Chicago and like there's placards that have like this building was created in 1936 and some old dude invested his entire life savings to make this fucking thing that you have in front of you and appreciate it because his whole life was dedicated to it. And people are just like, oh, whatever, all these buildings suck. City sucks. Like I walk around, I'm like, oh my God. I just see like, to me, it's the one giant mausoleum most of the time.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of people like, this is what they put everything they ever worked towards to. And then died.
It's incredible, yeah. I mean, but that's like part of being a human is
we are mortal. I think that's a good way to kind of wrap up the point of where we started.
Yes, the mortality of it all, where we get to a point, and whether through like personal experience, whether it's like a near death or just or seeing someone else die, you really like start to grasp your mortality for the first time. Because when we're kids, like it's your mortality is such a
kids think they're immortal.
Esoteric idea.
Kids think they're immortal.
Yeah.
They come out thinking like they can't die.
And then
we have to teach them what can kill them. And when we teach them things that aren't, sorry.
No, it's just once you see it, you go, okay, well, shoot. I got to best a couple decades. all of us at best, like whether you're young or middle-aged or older, at best you got a couple decades. That's like the whole human experience. I don't know.
That's it.
We got 10, 20 years.
That's it.
And you get to a point where you're like, okay, that's like ties back into the art thing, is like why I paint, right? I'm not a good painter, never been.
I'm impressed with your work. I'm not just saying that.
Thank you, I appreciate that, but it's just because I made the choice that okay, I'm gonna paint. That's something I want to do. I want that to be on the what do you call it when you die and they put it
post-mortem. I don't think it's the right word. That's what comes up.
There's a word for it.
Canonized? No. Shit. I'm just grasping. I know what you're talking about. I'm grasping at straws.
Yes. Yeah. Well, anyways, it's like that's what I want them to say about me when I'm done. When I'm
like Chichen Itza.
It doesn't matter if I was a good painter or not, because the chances of me like becoming a Mozart and making a bunch of money.
Well, to tie it in with the Mayans, man, that's like your pyramid.
Yeah.
Your monuments, your obelisk. It's your what you leave on the planet.
Yeah, my body will die. I will rot.
It's part of why I'm doing this live stream. I'm not gonna lie. Part of me wants to do this because I look at the way I look at old pictures of like my uncle and my aunt and my grandparents and all them. I look at those pictures. It's like we have a medium with which Sean and I can record for 1 hour, and no one will watch this for a decade. That's a possibility.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, that does not take away from the fact that I want to record this and have this moment.
No, and then just think about the wonderful tool it is to
Yes.
be able to express yourself, express who you were to your ancestors. Like,
And I would argue it's
generations
God's light.
before us.
It's God's light that possesses people to come to it at this point. Because I'm not going to market to this much at all. I texted a few people. So,
Right.
you know, whatever,
Right.
bless the algorithm that's going to allow YouTube to pull anyone
Yeah,
else
to
in.
actually see this, you know?
That's kind of how it comes into play. It's like, well, what will Google bestow upon my viewing habits? And
If anything, I think Google would try to make sure that no one would ever find it. So
Well,
I think by saying God's light, you're very accurate, because whoever
I say that
listens
explicitly
to it,
too. I don't say that as sarcasm,
No, I don't either.
because and I don't think it's
It would
sarcasm.
be the truth.
In the sales world, my boss is literally considering buying software. It's called Gong.io. This isn't, you know, weird to say. What it does is it records all conversations that are had, you know, over the sales, which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it coalesces all the data of the words that are said in a way to find which words in a conversation are best suited for saying on a sales call.
Oh, okay. So the words that will give you the best probability of making the sale.
Yeah, essentially.
I would hate that. I'm waiting tables right now, and they want you to upsell certain items and stuff. You're supposed to mention appetite.
It's literally they're literally on the wrong side of the fence.
Yeah. And
they don't even know it either, because there's no
and
communication in the
is,
company.
I don't want to do that.
No.
It feels too manufactured and fake, and most people.
You don't make tips when you do it either.
Most people want a very simple experience. You know, they're just like, they don't want to have to deal with you too much. If they feel like interacting with you, you engage them. But basically, they just want you to kind of be this quiet person to shuffle food and drinks to them. And so, you know, and I honestly, I probably get better tips. Based on my sales than the rest, you know, the other 9 out of 10 servers, because I treat them how they want to be treated.
That's kind of what I do.
I don't sit there and try to pitch to them like they don't want a sales pitch.
Oh.
You know, they might want us. They want you to answer some questions.
What do you want? How you feeling? What do you want? How you feeling? That's it.
Exactly.
I gave you the opportunity to tell you, if you want to share how you feel with me, you're welcome to do it. If you don't feel like it's fine too. Prefer it.
Exactly, and I prosper in that.
Right. But I've had a lot of beautiful interactions. Just, you know, for backup, we didn't really get into how we know each other at all. We just kind of did like a 57-minute riff on
lots of things. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, and there's no introduction as to how you and I know each other.
Oh, we're good friends. You know, old souls who crossed each other in this life. And,
do you remember the circumstances the first time we met?
Yeah, you were. It was at Frank and Tony's.
Yep, it was on Valentine's Day, and I just finished the day of serving. And, you know, I just got done with a day of just having a bunch of people on Valentine's Day having dates. And I was just like, you know what? I normally don't like to go out to the bar. I'm actually pretty tired. And I just went out to have a beer.
Yeah.
I sat down to this fine fellow. And I don't remember who said something first, but I think one of us was just like, hey.
Probably me.
Okay, it could have been either of us. I think it was you. But I was very responsive to you, and you were kind of surprised, I think.
Well, yeah, that's how I am. I throw out a line. I see how the bait.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
And if they give a hard pull on that hook, they're like, "Hey, what's up, friend?"
Well, it's like, what games can we play now from here? That's the way I look at it. Because that's how our brains are wired, man. It's like, what games can I keep doing here? And then we find our way to boredom.
Well, you know, the thing that I liked about you right off the bat, not to flash it too much, but is
keep it coming, man. I'm starting a YouTube channel, man. These people don't know me like you do.
Well, let me flatter you a little bit then. The thing that I liked about you, I mean, we met twice or once. I mean,
that's the crazy thing. We met that once. Did we ever meet again?
I've seen you again.
I feel like we have too. Again. Yeah, downtown Willoughby. Downtown Willoughby, I think. No,
yeah,
maybe.
Downtown Willoughby.
Speaking of which, I'm going to be home this Wednesday, So I plan on hitting up downtown
fantastic.
Willoughby.
Okay, great. Well, no,
The
you
thing
come
is-
over to my house.
Well, it's a short weekend. I plan to spend it with family. I'll be back for
Yeah.
Christmas and 100% there.
Okay.
I don't want to promise anything, but I'm saying I'm probably going out Wednesday
I'll
night.
be in Florida.
Oh, for Christmas?
Yes, sir.
Well, like I said, man, if it has to wait a decade, that's fine with me too.
But I gotta say, the thing I liked about you right away was I could tell you were intelligent. You had a lot of interesting opinions. The thing is, I've met other people who I thought were intelligent, but we didn't click because when we came to a subject that we disagreed on, they told me I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put up that wall and showed me that they're not open to really questioning things. They've made their choice as far as what is, and that's it. And you're not that way at all.
Well, you know why I can't be? I'll tell you exactly why I can't be.
Why?
Is because I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, and the Sith speak.
The great Jedi. The great Jedi.
The Sith
no
speak
way.
in absolutes. And the thing is, I still draw energy from the passion of the Sith, but the thing, like, philosophically, I'm talking in complete duality and symbology here. For anyone who thinks I literally think this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the idea of as soon as you start talking in any absolutes, you're going down the path of the dark side.
Yeah. And because
in one way or another.
You can't know. You cannot know. There is no definitive truth. It's all just gray areas, and at least.
And to me, God is absolute. That is whatever God means, whatever the source of the universe, the creator source, whatever you want to call it, that is where absolute comes from.
Yeah. Choose to believe in it or not. It doesn't matter.
It's what we end up actually experiencing. Because at the end of the day, I'm having a phone call with a microphone in my hand with headphones on and a webcam that's recording it. Just when you think of like what's happening on a human level, if we just like got amnesia and like maybe knew how to talk but didn't know what any of this stuff was, like 1886 like level, we'd be like, what the fuck? Sean, who are you?
Oh man.
Like that's where my brain wanders, man. That's why I just want to like record these things and like see what comes out of it. I think like
I've had the same thought for years. I have a good friend of mine, Jeff. I'll call him, riff with Jeff, and we will go for like 2 hours. And some of the things that'll just come out of that random kind of improv of conversation.
This is the conversation I think everyone wants to be having. Like when you're at work and you're talking to someone and you bring up that snide comment to see if you could talk about sports or whatever, you're like, oh, did you watch the game? That's me saying, can I share this with you?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm busy.
Connect?
Yeah. Everyone wants to connect all the time,
Yeah.
And human. It's just like, I just want to open like an area to connect where if you're willing to chat to me, I will talk about what you're talking about unless it's shitty.
Well,
Plain and
I'm
simple.
excited for the future because I truly think you got something going here, and
we talked about this when we first met. I'm pretty sure, actually.
Yeah, and
did we?
You just gotta stick to it. Have confidence in yourself. Don't question.
Do you remember that as well, though?
Yeah.
I thought we did.
Oh yeah, no,
And that was like 2 years ago, I think.
It wasn't that long.
No, 2. I did. I honestly don't see time anymore. Going back to 2 years ago.
I think it was a year and a half at the most.
Post 2015, I have a hard time judging time.
Yeah, what is it? 2020.
2020 is coming up, man. It's coming up.
I can't wait. I can't wait till it's 2025 or what's that song? It's this very old song.
Very old songs are huge at maintaining your mental peace, for the record.
25.
Yeah, we could.
Man is still alive. There you go. That's for your.
Who's that by?
For your YouTube viewers.
Okay. Well, I was gonna hit you with something sooner. They say in 12 years AI will have taken control.
Well, good. Finally, someone who knows.
That's the Mayan calendar, I believe. That's the Mayan calendar, I believe. So, take that.
Yeah. Well, my whole life it's been And in 1999, it was Y2K, and the world's going to end. The planes are going to fall out of the sky. And then 2000, also in 1999, Columbine. So that, played a role in things. And then 2001, we don't even need to say
2001. Yeah, that's
the entire everything.
And I think there's a huge underground of people who know what really happened.
Yeah, well, it's like they stopped trying to make the lies convincing.
They know. They just don't want to think that way.
On September 11th, 2001, they gave up on trying to make the lies sound convincing.
I knew for a fact that 9/11 was an inside job when I heard interviews of soldiers at poppy fields.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and no one.
And now we have
really
an opioid epidemic. It's like,
what do you know?
All you have to do is look at what happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, that would make sense. And then you don't even have to dig any deeper. You're just like, that would make sense. And that's as far as you really need to go as far as I go.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to have this discussion for someone to be like, oh, well, you know what? No, it wasn't an inside job.
1 + 1 = 2.
I believe it does.
I think it does, but you know what? Nowadays, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure anymore.
Man, I'm pretty sure this is how people started radio shows back in the 80s.
It could be 3, 4, or 5 for all I know. You don't have to ask the astrologers,
Oh, yes. Yes. Actually, it's funny you mentioned it. This is like my to ward off demons. Actually, I'm showing it to the camera, but you can't see it. I wear a zodiac necklace, and I normally wear my Taoist pendant, but this is what I pull out for the big guns.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, zodiac is to ward off the demons, man.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is people, we say it in jest, but it's true. There's demons. There are evil forces. Demon is a word for that. Entities of of malicious intent, and they are all around us. Mm-hmm. They're in this world, and we
in
just
your head.
choose to pretend that they're other things.
There's a part of your brain that's in a holding pattern there. You realize on a cognitive level, there's a part of your brain that's in a holding pattern at that thought. Because you just talked about it, you thought about it, you gave that object a position where it is a combatant in your brain. It's just waiting there to for you to go back to for devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So it literally is consumed in your mind. That's the scariest thing to me.
Yeah. I mean.
And then what you make of that affects how you do everything else.
I'm sorry, say it again.
And so what I'm saying is because you spent a moment thinking about this malicious, malevolent object, now that whatever you're doing in that moment when you think of it now is tied in that way. And now you have to dig yourself back in a different way.
Exactly. Exactly. But here's the thing is these type of negative forces, best way of saying it, feed on your ignorance.
They do.
But you have to be self-aware. You have to understand that we live in a supernatural world and that there are things outside of you that you can't see that interact with you in your subconscious and in ways you don't understand. And if you're not aware of that, then you are open to attack.
Yes.
And okay. You don't do that.
Yep.
Don't do that to yourself.
Not at all. Yeah, I was going to say one other thing is here's where things can get confusing for someone who's maybe in the depths of hell, because this is where we should be giving advice to, because we know those people would take advice, right? Would be the fact that even if you can't distinguish where hell ends and where heaven begins, where you are making the right choices, right? Yeah. Don't do it for other people. Do it for yourself. Treat yourself. And this while I'll go back, because actually I'm going to hang up soon because I have some stuff to do. This has been a long broadcast.
No problem. That's great.
But I want to wrap it up on a note that ties up how we see strangers and the immortality angle that we brought up, treating them like immortal beings that you have an eternal moment with, or have the possibility to, like we ended up having a 1-hour broadcast here.
There you go.
Sharing a moment with someone, you're capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Are you willing? Can you follow through? And you did. I appreciate it, brother.
No problem, man.
But
I was very honored to have you ask me
honored to have you on. This is the most fun I've had recording anything on YouTube.
Good.
So
good. We'll do it again. We'll do it lots of times.
Yeah, just final point to wrap up. Just gonna say, treat strangers as immortals. Treat yourself also like an immortal. Realize that treating yourself to be prepared for the world, whatever you're anxious about, is important to just understand where you're at and making sure that is in a good place to be able to create good change for yourself to see. And I think that is like the place to start every time when you're in the worst place. Agreed?
Amen.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace, bud.